All right, thank you so much for having me. Apparently I am too short to be noticed in a crowd as actually present to speak, so I apologize for the little delay in that. I do have a slide deck. I'm not sure if we're gonna pop that up. But so I'm not sure how many people here have any idea where to start with cybersecurity, so just quick poll of the audience. Who's got some sort of background in IT or cybersecurity? I like how few hands are being raised. It's Cybersecurity 101, so we're keeping things very simple today. So I just want to start off by going into what the Center for Internet Security and the Multi-State Information and Sharing and Analysis Center are, where we come from. Yes, we do have an acronym for absolutely everything. So the MS-ISAC, or the Multi-State Information Sharing and Analysis Center, is one of 3 program areas under the Center for Internet Security, or CIS. It's actually federally funded by the Department of Homeland Security to provide free cybersecurity resources to state, local, tribal, and territorial governments. And it all started back in 2003 when the New York State CISO at the time said, hey, we're sharing all of this information about physical threats across borders, but cyber threats don't know borders the way physical threats do. The things that are affecting me here in New York, at the time it was the CISO of New York, remember, could also be affecting someone in Hawaii or Maine or Washington or Kentucky. So why aren't we sharing that information about the cyber threat actors who are out there affecting us? So this whole little program got started. It was about a year until DHS took notice and started funding us through what's called a cooperative agreement. So that's why all of the services and membership that we have are completely free. So you already paid for them in your taxes. This year, we actually also launched the Elections Infrastructure Information Sharing and Analysis Center, or the EI-ISAC. I think I'm 3 acronyms in now, so I have about 40 more to go. But the elections infrastructure was designated as critical infrastructure back in 2017. So DHS looked to us to start up a program to support elections infrastructure as well, from not only a cybersecurity standpoint, but also from an information sharing standpoint. So that's also a resource for any of you who support elections. So getting into who we actually serve, we work on a membership basis. Again, membership is completely free and totally voluntary, but we work with all 50 states, all 6 territories. For those of you who think that we can't count at the MS-ISAC, we count DC in that number 6, so that's where that 6th one comes from. But we also have over 4,300 local governments as members of the MS-ISAC. So that's huge. That is a huge portion of the US. But I do want to mention that, you're all representing counties here, right? It's not just those cities and counties and towns that we count as local governments. It's really anything that's public, non-federal. So those local governments include public transportation, which has been a hot topic today, local police departments, things like that. So anybody who has a unique IT department can be a separate member of the MS-ISAC and receive our services and resources directly. And of course, the EI-ISAC, which just launched on March 7th, is already growing substantially. We've got all 50 states on board and over 1,300 local election offices so far. So that's huge growth in just a few months. So this is the bad news. The bad news is that Kentucky is one of our least represented states as members in the MS and EI-ISAC. Most of you will not see your organization up on that board. The good news is it's really easy to join. So in order to take advantage of almost all of the services, there are a couple out there that you don't need to be a member for, but in order to take advantage of all of the services that I'll go through today, all you need to do is fill out our online registration form. There is a terms and conditions checkbox at the end of it that says, if I click this, the information that you send me is going to have a traffic light protocol rating on it. That dictates how far you can share that information. We ask that by checking that terms and conditions box, you're agreeing to not share that information any further than what is set out in that traffic light protocol. A lot of the information that we send out you can share freely, but if we're sending you information about a specific cyber threat and giving you a little bit of a tip-off about what malicious actors are doing, it's really helpful for us to stay ahead if you don't tell them that we know what they're doing. So that's why that is there. It also says that you never have to send us any information. You can take our information and use it at your will, but if you do ever decide to send us information, because it is information sharing and analysis, if you do ever send us information, we can't share it any further than you tell us we can. We can't even share it with DHS unless you tell us we can. So it's that old saying, I'm from the government, I'm here to help. Well, we took the government's money and we're here to help. So again, and it's very easy. All that you have to do is fill out that form. I have 2 links on there for those of you who are involved in elections. That bottom link is the MS-ISAC registration. If you fill out either and give us an idea of like who you are and what you do, one of the things is job title that you have to give us, we'll make sure you're paired up with the right set of services. So the 2 forms are actually exactly the same with MS and EI replaced with each other. So it's really, really easy to join. I encourage everybody to do so, and we can get the ball rolling for you. So why government? Why is DHS funding us to make sure our state, local, tribal, and territorial governments, or SLTTs, if you will, are protected? Well, you all have a lot of information. If you take any payments, you've got your county's like credit card information, or if you've got a county jail, your inmates' health records are on there. So governments have a ton of information about the people who live within their regions. So we see criminals targeting them constantly. One of my favorite stories, it's a little bit dated now, but it's still fun to tell because it's a win story for us. It's back in 2014, 2015, a gentleman was going by the name of the Bitcoin Baron, was targeting state, local, tribal, and territorial governments with what are called DDoS attacks, or distributed denial of service attacks. Basically what he was doing is sending so much traffic at their networks that their networks can't handle it and can't process any requests at all. So sometimes when you see a website offline, I know from an election standpoint, a lot of people heard about some DDoS attacks happening. Knox County, Tennessee comes up a lot in the media in terms of those types of issues. So it's something that can just look a little bit troublesome for a government. And of course, you want to make sure you have your services online and available to everyone. So this gentleman was targeting government entities, trying to get their services offline. And he was very successful at it. He had 11 very successful attacks, and he claimed responsibility for it. Now, we couldn't initially see who it was. All we knew was that he was the Bitcoin Baron. But some other cyber actors were saying that he wasn't a real criminal. So in order to prove the fact that he was a real criminal, he decided, let me post on Twitter this redacted version of these criminal charges that I'm being put up on in Arizona. And it was about 8 different charges that he had this Twitter post up for. Of course, he took off his name and his address and everything, but there are only so many people within the state of Arizona who are being put up on these 8 very specific charges. So our SOC actually wound up seeing this because we have what's called an API into Twitter looking for any activity that this gentleman's doing. So we very quickly found Randall Charles Tucker. He was in his mom's basement launching these attacks. He was very easy to find, so he was actually indicted. So it was a fun win story for us. So as much as cyber threats are affecting all of us, and sometimes it feels a little bit hopeless, sometimes we do win as well. I mentioned our SOC very briefly in all of this. The heart and soul of our organization is our 24/7/365 Security Operations Center, or our SOC. They are available to you anytime. As a public non-federal entity, whether you're a county or something else that fits into that category, such as an association like NACO is a member, you can always reach out to them. They're always there monitoring, and also they're always there answering the phones and answering emails, so they're very easy to get a hold of. They also work with a number of different intelligence sources, and I bring this up because when we were talking about me coming to speak today, I was asked about, if there's a law enforcement entity that is working on a case, can you run queries for them? And I said, actually, it goes both ways. So we work with all the fusion centers throughout the United States. For those of you who are unfamiliar with what a fusion center is, it's a place where multiple levels of law enforcement, from federal all the way down to local, work together under one roof. We also have 2 seats on the floor of the National Cybersecurity and Communications Integration Center, or the NCIC. And that is a place where all the federal entities, all those 3-letter agencies, all of the other ISACs, and also private sector partners all work together under one roof. So sometimes if the FBI, for example, is seeing something going on, they may not be able to tell us all the details about an ongoing investigation, but they will ask us to run queries against IP addresses. Or sometimes they'll let us know, hey, we know that you're working with this particular government. You might want to reach out to them and tell them to look into XYZ. So while they can't give us a ton of details, they can at least give us a little bit of a heads up to help you guys protect yourselves. So I said that we were going to talk about best practices, and I wanted to deliver on my promise, although I have to say The original 30-minute time slot was a little rough for me. I did a 3-hour session just last week in Las Vegas, so I'm going to try not to let these next 57 slides go on too long. No, I'm totally kidding. So the first best practice for securing your county is to make sure you're educating your end users, because everyone does make mistakes. Sometimes they're really, really frustrating mistakes. I know it's very difficult to see, but that top left picture is inside a supermarket that is local in upstate New York to me. That little gray box is their wireless router, their administrative wireless router, not for like guest Wi-Fi or anything like that. There's a little white strip on that. That little white strip has the Wi-Fi password on it, like the administrator login Wi-Fi password. Smart, so smart. The bottom right there, I apologize, it's a little obstructed on this setup, but there was a gentleman at BWI Airport who was logged into his work computer and just kept walking away. It's a completely unattended computer. He would go like get a drink at the bar, come back, look at his email, nothing new. I could tell him that there was nothing new. He didn't have to look, I already looked. Just one of those things where you leave your computer unattended, but how much damage can somebody do if somebody within your county leaves their work laptop, if you have such a thing, unattended in an airport? It's not even like, it doesn't even have to be a malicious actor from a cyber standpoint. It can just be somebody who's curious and it's like, oh, payroll, what's this? I just got your entire staff's social security numbers. That was fun. So it's just one of those things that we want to keep an eye out for. Another one of my favorite examples is a few years back with the Super Bowl. There was this big look into first of its kind security command center for the Super Bowl, and the news cameras came in and they were all excited to show off how secure they were and how ready and prepared they were, and there was just this one little clip of it, and during that clip, of course, was the login and password again. People love posting their passwords in places that are easy to find, because who wants to like look through a bunch of different places? It's fun for us. So the moral of the story is that we do need to educate our end users. One of the ways that we enable organizations to do that is we send out our monthly newsletters. These are very non-technical in nature, and they're aimed at the end user. They're aimed at everyday users. So they'll focus on something that's timely and relevant. So right now it's November. A lot of times in November we like to talk about staying secure while online shopping, as everybody's gearing up for the holiday season. So the idea here is that we talk about something that's relevant in the end user's day-to-day lives so that they can create those good habits with something that matters to them, and hope that it trickles up into the workplace. So the other cool part about this is that we encourage you to totally rip it off. You can delete our logo from it. We send it to you in a Word document. You can delete our logo. You can change the colors. You can take from the desk of Thomas F. Duffy off there and put in your own name. Great way to start up a cybersecurity awareness program. My colleague Eugene, who writes these newsletters, has actually won several awards for local governments throughout the country who have been given awards for their cybersecurity awareness programs. Turns out it was just his newsletter, but they rebranded it so it counts. We're totally fine with it. At the end of the day, if we can educate our end users, we don't care who gets credit for it, the users are educated. Another thing we do every October in light of Cybersecurity Awareness Month is send out our Cybersecurity Awareness Toolkits. We've got calendars and posters that were created out of our annual K-12 poster contest, where these kids have awesome ideas as to how to grab people's attention and talk about those relevant cybersecurity issues. Just one of those things, put them up around your office, we send them to you totally for free, and just have people thinking, put it in the backs of people's minds about staying cyber secure. We also send out through the MS-ISAC elections awareness products, and I bring this up, this is not relevant just to elections folks, although it is more relevant. One thing in particular I like to mention is our cybersecurity spotlight. Every other week on Fridays, we send out a 1 to 2 page document, it's usually like a page and a paragraph, that focuses on a relevant cybersecurity issue, whether it's a type of malicious actor or a type of attack or something like that. You know, I mentioned DDoS attacks earlier. One of our first ones was about DDoS attacks. And it explains in very plain language what it is and then why it matters. Why should it matter to you as a local government what a DDoS attack is? And then finally it goes, what can you do about it? So everything that we send out is supposed to be actionable, something that you can actually take action on. We don't want to just flood your inbox with information that's not useful to you. Another big thing we see all the time are phishing emails. We want to make sure our users are prepared, keeping their eyes open. One of the things that we do offer is a malicious code analysis platform, or MCAP. This is a sandbox environment where users can analyze any suspicious emails or files they get to see if they are actually malicious. So it's one of those ways where you're debating whether or not to click that link or open that file that somebody sent you. Rather than sitting there and debating, you or your IT department can use this software in order to find out whether or not it's malicious. Pro tip: if you are not in the IT department, which I feel like most of the people in this room are not, you can just send it to our SOC and we'll analyze it for you. It's not a problem. We're always happy to help with that sort of thing. So I bring up our malicious code analysis platform. You can use it for any suspicious link or file. Just the vast majority of the submissions that we get are from phishing emails. And when we see a lot of them, we can send out what are called advisories to any of our members and say, hey, we're seeing this phishing email going around a lot of local governments, and here's the subject line that we keep seeing. So it's one thing to say, keep an eye out for a phishing email. It's a whole other to say, keep an eye out for this particular phishing email that we see being sent to finance departments, and this is the subject line, and these are the different domains that we're seeing it sent from. So it just makes it that much easier to spot. And as long as I'm talking about phishing, I always like to remind people that these are real problems that cause really, really big problems. I don't know if anybody remembers in 2015 when Ukraine had a little issue with their critical infrastructure. It all started with a phishing email that one of their employees clicked on. Over 225,000 customers were out of power for over 6 hours. They had to manually go through the streets and turn these back on. This was eventually attributed to Russia. It was the Black Energy malware. But it's just one of those things where, we think about cyber, we think about it in kind of an obscure fashion, but it can affect our physical lives as well. So we definitely want to be making sure that we're training our users, having that awareness. Don't click that link if you're unsure. You can send it off to us, you can send it off to your IT department, and they can send it to us or work with the MCAP. Just be aware, use the resources that are out there. Another thing that's out there in terms of educating end users, this is actually not the MS-ISAC's resource, but it's something I wanted to tell you about because it's free. The National Cybersecurity Alliance, the link to it is on the slide up there for you, but there are a ton of resources through this just for end users trainings, tip sheets, things like that that you can distribute throughout your organization. And I see somebody taking a picture, so I'm pausing before, there we go, okay, cool. Another big thing, as many of the small counties throughout the nation, you may not have an IT department, but you may be starting to start up an IT department or trying to employ a contractor to come in and provide IT or cybersecurity services to your organization. Well, how do you know what questions to ask? How do you know what qualifications they should have? The workforce development, it's through US CERT. This provides you an entire framework of job descriptions, what roles people should have, what qualifications they should have. So it's a great resource for everybody to reach out to as they're trying to develop some sort of cybersecurity program or hire some staff. So, as somebody who is not an IT professional or not a cybersecurity professional, my background's actually in physics and geology, so I needed this. It's just a great way to say, all right, let me leverage the community of experts and find out what it is I actually need. Also, federal virtual training environment, any government, federal or non-federal government, or any veteran can leverage those cybersecurity resources and training. There are also managerial trainings on here. There are over 900 course hours completely for free. So, I'm running super low on time. Next, lock your doors. Obviously, we want to train our users. We want to make sure we're not clicking any malicious links, things like that, but it really helps because a lot of things can be avoided. Even if the user clicks a link and we wind up downloading what would be malicious software, a lot of times if your doors are properly locked, then it can't do anything anyways. So one of the biggest things that we always say is patch. Patching is making sure that your software that you're running is up to the latest and greatest. So one of the things that we do is we run what's called a vulnerability management program, where we visit your website on an automated basis and just pull down banner information. It's information that's publicly available to any malicious actor, and we see what kind of software and what version your websites are running. That helps us to let you know if your software is out of date so that we can get it updated and get it secure, because those are the types of things that malicious actors are constantly looking to just take advantage of. Even if you're not specifically being targeted, if you're running an out-of-date version of a content management program, or a content management system or something like that on your sites, it's something that's just easy for them to take advantage of, even if they weren't specifically looking for you as a government. Another thing we do is we look for open ports running services that make us nervous, such as there's something called remote desktop protocol. If we see that open to the public, we'll let you know about it, because remote desktop protocol is exactly what it sounds like, where somebody can remotely take control over your desktop. Probably don't want that open to the public, so just little notifications that we can send you to help you be a little more secure. We also send you a list of IPs and domains that we see doing nothing but malicious activity, and we can give your IT department an automated way to import that into your firewalls, so you don't have to worry about it. That blocks a lot of the traffic from even hitting your systems in the first place. We also have what's called the CIS Secure Suite. It's totally free. CIS charges for this for any public sector or any private sector entities. As of January 1st, it's totally free to any state, local, tribal, or territorial government. One of the cool things about this is that all software has recommended security settings that are done on a consensus basis across the entire world. I'm sorry, I almost said the United States. I'm so US-centric lately. But we have an assessor that you can take advantage of completely for free, run on your systems, see how they match up against those recommended security settings, and then you can automatically deploy the fixes to them if you choose to do so. So again, that's one of those things that probably your IT department would want to work with us on, but we do have people who will step you through it too. There's also the Cyber Resilience Review. This is a DHS service, not an MS-ISAC service, but they will literally come in, sit down with you, talk about your current cybersecurity posture, talk about how your current setup is, and sit down and make a plan with you. Let's go through your systems. Let's identify where we need to start in order to get you more secure. And for those of you who don't feel super comfortable having the federal government come into your organizations, there is also a self-assessment available directly on their website. Again, totally for free. Sometimes because this is reliant on a single individual visiting your county, sometimes there will be a little bit of a waiting list for this type of service, but the self-assessment is always available, and we do recommend you do it before having somebody come in person anyways, so that you have a good idea of what you want to concentrate on. We also have the Nationwide Cybersecurity Review. This is going on right now, the NCSR. We work in conjunction with DHS, and this was actually requested by the Senate Appropriations Committee. This is a voluntary self-assessment to figure out what your cybersecurity posture looks like right now, and you can actually track it from year to year. Now, I said the word Senate Appropriation Committee. It's a great way to have your voice heard in terms of what your organization is struggling with. Because this is reported out every other year to Congress. So when we band together as the MS-ISAC members and as state and local governments and have our voices heard, we're all struggling with the same things. So it's a great way to have grant funding allocated in the places where we really need it. And that is open now until the end of the month. So if anybody has any questions about these, by the way, I'm gonna hang out. I know I'm going through rapid fire, and I also know that these slides will be available to you later. So last but not least, several years ago, the former director of the FBI said there are only two types of companies, those that have been hacked and those that will be. Even that's merging into one category, those that have been hacked and those that will be again. And if that was the statement in 2012, think about where we are now. I actually like to say there are two types of organizations, those that have been hacked and those that don't know that they have yet. So, you know, we see all of the headlines coming out all the time. A lot of these are really old. I would update it every time I saw a headline, but I don't have time for that. So when all else fails, have a plan. We do provide incident response planning guides and templates. I actually run a work group that creates these. You can always reach out to me. My work group members also are always more than happy to work with other organizations to set up these types of services. Do exercises. Once you have a plan, make sure it works. So we create these quick tabletop exercises that are supposed to be 15 minutes that you can take advantage of within your organizations. And if you want to do something a little bit bigger, HCEP from FEMA actually will sit down with you and plan a whole big cyber exercise for your organizations. We're also creating a board game style cyber exercise that you guys can all take advantage of as well, although that's not out quite yet. Last but not least, and this is the big one, if you get nothing else out of this today, whether you join the MS-ISAC or not, we have a free incident response team. It's our Computer Emergency Response Team, or CERT. You do not have to be a member in order to take advantage of this service. They will do full forensic analysis. They will do full log analysis. They will talk you through how to send us a forensic image of your infected systems. If you are having an incident, if you think you might be having an incident, you can always reach out to them 24/7, 365. So if you get nothing else out of this other than the contact information for our 24/7, 365 Security Operations Center, I'd still be happy. So they're always out there, always ready for you, and we're totally okay just being a second set of eyes. If you've got another agency or you like to do your incident response yourself, that's perfectly fine. If you want to just reach out to us for a sanity check, totally fine. They're there for you. It's totally free. It doesn't cost you anything, and we can't share the information that you send us any further than you say we can. So they're there for you. I do, over on that side water table, have little business cards that have that 24/7 contact information on them as well. So we set out some pamphlets and things like that. And of course, I will be around if you need any information or want to reach out to me directly. So I would say questions, but I know I'm already a little bit over time, which I would have totally been under time had I been up here on time.